You're listening to Community Voice PHL, an award-winning talk show that informs, engages, and inspires.
The best way to start connecting with yourself.
So you would say mindfulness is a form of self-love?
I would say so, yes. Yes. The awareness starts there.
It starts there with the awareness, and what does it build on from there? Because if Jeff comes to you and he's just fresh off the struggle bus, how do you help Jeff to get to that place of awareness, mindfulness, and then on their path?
I think that's where that self-love and compassion comes in. So
From
whatever no, from yourself. It
But
has to come from Jeff.
Right.
I'm just guiding.
Right, but what if Jeff doesn't know how to get to that place?
That's okay.
Okay.
So that is where coaching, where yoga and practices help, where they facilitate a moment for you to be able to connect with yourself. So in coaching specifically, it's being curious about the client that you're having a session with and asking curious questions and deep questions. So maybe there may be a recurrent thought, and if I could use an example, it would be I'm not good enough. Right? And so we would go through how often do you think that thought? We would try to figure out basically patterns or a map of when were the times in your life that you felt like you weren't good enough? What were the times in your life where maybe someone told you that you weren't good enough? And going back as far as we can go, usually always ends up in childhood. And so by understanding that, then we start to see, well, was it that someone told you that one time? And after that, in every situation that felt similar, you started to tell yourself that, and why, right? And when you tell yourself that, how does that feel in your body? Where do you feel it? In your chest? In your stomach? Does it make your voice shake? Does it make you nervous? Does it make you become smaller? And we explore that and we sit with it. And so once you understand where it's coming from, what it's doing to your body, and how it's getting in the way of who you truly are, who you want to be, or what you want to accomplish, then it's like, well, if I'm trying to get over here, then I gotta let that go, right? I gotta find ways to, and it's not an easy thing. It's not like, oh, I'm just gonna snap my fingers and let it go. But that's the practice. Consistently showing up for yourself, and whenever the thought comes in, being able to take that moment, pause, feel it in your body. Okay, this is just negative self-talk that's been programmed within me for years. But
some of that negative self-talk is like socially engineered, right? So it's like social trauma, then it's direct trauma, then vicarious trauma. So sometimes people are not really realizing how they are not seeing their best self, and so they may come into one of your sessions, I'm fine, I'm okay, but they just like to do yoga. And then they realize they're not looking at themselves the right way because, again, social trauma, vicarious trauma, some things have been preconditioned so that we don't even know what we don't know about being our best self, right? And that's a lot when she was talking a lot about that, becoming your best self, being aware of how you can be your best self, right? Yeah, so how do we get to that space of you coaching somebody and they don't know what they don't know about themselves, right?
Yeah. I think that's a huge part of just the overall journey. You may never uncover every single part of yourself, right? But having consistent practices, or even allowing yourself to play, which is where the creativity element comes
Don't
in.
say that too loud. My wife would be like, no, don't tell that guy. He plays too much. But play therapy is important, right?
It is.
And it was a friend of mine, is a friend of mine, Greg Corbin. I don't know if he does it anymore. He used to have like play therapy where adults would come and chalk on the walls and all that. You just really play, get into that inner child. So do you think that that is something like, you know, touching base on your inner child, allowing that inner child to really create that voice that they never had so that the adult can have the voice that they always wanted?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's, I mean, that's a huge part of who you are. Like when you look at children, like from what I've seen and what I've experienced, they have no filter. Like they're
At all. Children and elders, no filter.
Yeah,
right. So it's like they're just authentically themselves. They let you know how they feel. Like it's such a beautiful thing to watch. And I've seen that even with like close family members. I'm one of the oldest out of all my cousins, and so I've seen them grow up, and I can see, okay, you know, your authentic self as a child, and then like where some of the programming has like influenced or shifted some of that authenticity. And so even if you don't know exactly what it is that you want to uncover about yourself, allowing yourself to play, allowing yourself to connect to that inner child, it's just going to allow you to expand even more, to connect to yourself even more, and you'll discover those ways. You may not know exactly what that looks like until you do, and then it's a beautiful surprise.
Yeah. And that beautiful surprise often comes in the way of self-realization, and it comes in the way of self-awareness. Have you seen some of your clients when they come to you and they get to that point, is there any like nuanced thing that they do and say, now that I feel better about who I am, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z? Is it like a next journey that they take in the process?
Integration. Integration is a big part. So understanding that we, in order to continue to embrace those parts of ourselves, it's not a one-time thing. And so keeping the mindfulness, keeping the awareness of, hey, maybe I fell off track in some of my habits, maybe, you know, life got hectic and a bunch of changes have happened, and so I haven't been taking as much care of myself. Let me get back to that. You know, understanding the importance of it, understanding and remembering how good it feels to connect with yourself, to listen to your voice, to listen to yourself, to listen to your body. All of those things you discover along the way.
What do you think about that, Nick? This is some awesome stuff going on
I agree. I wanted to keep talking, but
yeah, right. I feel like talking to me, right?
Yeah. Can I share the story, babe, about grandma's birthday?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So my grandmother's birthday was recently. It was her 75th birthday, and we all went out to dinner. And you know, we're waiting for our table, and me and Catherine see a little placemat there with some crayons. So we said, hey, why not tap into that and play with that a little bit? Because that's a part of really connecting with your inner child and doing things that's fun. And it's something that a lot of adults won't even mess with because we think it's something that's so childish. But, you know, that can help heal parts of yourself, as Catherine was saying, that you might have locked away, and really tap into that authenticity aspect of it. So adults can color too, you know, don't be ashamed of that.
Yeah, but what often happens, it gets to a point in our growth, right, with little kids next to you could be, I think Will Smith said this, as a little kid, they tell you can be anything you want to be. But then it gets to a certain point where they say, gotta be realistic, right?
Yes.
So where does that change from? Because that goes back to what you were saying, Nick, like adults will look at that and be like, I would love to play, but then people go look at me.
Somebody gonna judge me.
Yeah, somebody gonna judge me, right? So where does that part come in when we lose that spontaneity? Like a child go up there, you would have to tell them, put that down, don't touch that. But as an adult, you'd be like, ooh, that's my favorite color, green, right? I can do some damage with that. And that goes back like what Will Smith was saying. Where does it get to where socially we're if you will, steered to get away from being what we truly want to be, you know, because the world is ours until we get to be 16, 17, then they say, be realistic. And I'm just using that as an age to all our 16, 17-year-olds. I'm not pointing at you, I'm just saying. But Coach Cat, what do you think about that?
Adulting.
It's
a
a
little
trap.
bit of a scam. It's a little bit of a
It's a
scam.
trick.
Yeah. It's like, it's what you said, all of a sudden you get to this point and you're expected to assume all of these responsibilities, but also you're expected to fully know yourself and know in which direction to head in and make the right choice and choose the right career and the right education and next steps. It's like this list of things that society has placed upon us. Usually the track of like, you go to school, you get a good job, you're there for 20 years, and along the way you get married, you buy a house, and then you retire. And
2.5 kids and all that.
Yeah. And it's become this like box that everyone is being put in. It's just not the way that everybody works.
So let me ask you this. It just came to my mind. Is there such thing? Well, not is there such thing. What's your thoughts on the doing the right thing, having the right life, or being free? You know, it's like, because people say, do the right thing. Supposedly, like you were saying, go to college, do this. Those are the right things. But will that be something that really frees that person? It could be, but it also could be something different. So what's your thoughts on the right thing and doing what really frees you?
The right thing usually sounds like what society thinks is the right thing,
Yeah.
right?
How do you know what's
by
right or wrong?
definition, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, well, my question would be, or my like self-inquiry would be, what makes you feel purposeful? What makes your heart sing? Like, what makes you feel alive? And follow that excitement, follow those things. And it's obviously easier said than done, because then someone will come by and be like, well, you gotta pay your bills and you gotta be responsible. And that's when we kind of like go to the totally other extreme of not allowing ourselves to play. But thinking about that, how can we find a little bit of balance? How can we find some harmony? Like, yes, there are adulting things to do. Yes, we gotta pay bills and taxes and all of that. Okay, understood. But don't forget about that child self. Don't abandon that child. Like, you would, most people I think, wouldn't tell a child to stop playing, or like, don't do that, or I don't want, like, when you're a kid, like, you want to see the kid happy and playing, and you buy them toys and all of these things. And then we just completely disconnect from that, as if that was never who we were. And so part of my coaching program also focuses on incorporating all the parts of self. So even the parts that you have shut down, even the parts that you have shamed, why were they shamed? Like, it may feel like, oh, I don't like these negative aspects of myself because they may show up or manifest as something that others judge. However, those parts kept you safe. Usually those are coping mechanisms, right? For a certain circumstance, stress, or that's your body keeping you safe. That's a response that needed to happen in that moment. How can you understand it, bring compassion to it, and love it, so that you can move forward with all of your parts and not lose those pieces of yourself? Because that's when we forget who we are.
When we forget who we are, we don't even realize or even know where we want to go.
Exactly.
Right? So then we get lost in the milieu of whatever they think is best for me, I think I should choose.
And you absorb that, right? Because it's like, okay, I'm just gonna drop all these pieces that other people didn't like about me, that I didn't, but I'm gonna pick up these other ones that don't even belong to me, and I'm gonna hold on to them.
So now the challenge might come in your work where people say, and maybe they've said it to you, maybe you already even have an understanding of an answer for it. That's just positive talk. That's just positive, therapy, just being overly positive. What is your thoughts about that? Because there is a level of positive energy and faith and hope for those who have a faith foundation and hope that can attach themselves to. But what do you say about that to people who just think of this as just a positive mindset shift? Isn't it more than that?
It absolutely is. It's focusing on what they call shadow work, right? It's being able to look at yourself in the mirror and take radical responsibility for where the areas in your life where you're holding yourself back. Because yes, it may have been programming that was instilled by someone else, but you're the one that's still carrying it. And that's not easy, right? The positive part is, once you are able to see that, sit with it, process it, and reprogram it into something positive, and go back to like your authentic self and all of that. But when you're sitting in it, it's painful. It's not pretty, right? And so having the right community, the right support, the right guidance to help you be able to sit with that pain and help move that pain through your body and talk about it and let it out and let it go is a huge part of the process.
So there's the yoga, there's the mindfulness. Is it combined with therapeutic work as well? Is it therapy involved? Is it separate? Is it all? How does it work? What's the magic? Is it like gumbo? Is it you come here, you get therapeutic yoga mindfulness, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, okay. See,
So-
Nick, I'm learning.
Me too.
I like to tailor depending on what the client is dealing with and depending on how much self-awareness they already have. So one thing I don't want to do is completely say like, hey, you gotta pick up all these new habits and tools and things that you gotta do, and like maybe you don't even like yoga, right? So understanding where the client is, where they are headed, what is their goal, and through conversations and through different coaching tools and exercises, you get to explore what's called the mind map. So you get to understand the person's beliefs, the person's limiting beliefs, the person's habits, and then by making, micro adjustments and having the client agree, you're basically carving out your own path. So maybe you're not open to yoga, but maybe you are open to breath work. So, and breath work is a form of yoga, or that's how it actually originated. That's another story for another time. However, whatever it is that you're open to, that is the route that we will take, right? Nothing is forced, nothing is, it's really definitely tailored to the client. Yes.
And as we begin to wrap up, because again, half an hour is never really enough time to be able to get all the knowledge we can from Coach Kat and all the great work that she's doing. You have anything you want to follow up on real quick, Nick?
I feel like if I'd start, then we're gonna be here another half hour. But the things that stood out to me really was 3 words: compassion, acceptance, and forgiveness for self. I think that's really important when it comes to self-love. And thank you for sharing those perspectives. I like that it's not something that's forced, because if it's forced, is that really love?
You asking me?
Hey, whoever want to answer, we all got mics.
You get it out there like
Great
you
question.
he was gonna ask me. So, Coach Kat, I'm gonna leave it at that, because that's a thought question for people who are following us on social media or email us to CommunityVoicePHL at gmail.com. Send us your thoughts on that question that Nick just dropped right there, because I know that'll be tons of emails now coming through, which Nick will address next episode. He put the question out there. So when you email us at CommunityVoicePHL@gmail.com, said, per Nick question, he said. But no, seriously, please interact with that question, because I do like the fact that Nick put it out there as a thought trailer for us to really take in everything that Coach Kat was sharing with us and be able to understand how we can definitely get to be our better selves and the levels of work that Coach Kat has in mind for us to pursue and take on. So Coach Kat, if someone does want to become one of your clients, take in yoga, breath work, shadow work, or any other great things that you're doing, how can they keep up with you? And what are some last words that you can give to us? Maybe 2 nuggets that you can give to our listeners, and then how you can catch up to you.
Yes, so you can find me at Enmi Wellness on Instagram, and I am offering free 30-minute discovery calls at the moment. And I have shared the Calendly link with you. Let me know how we can share that with the audience.
Yep, we'll have that on the show notes.
Perfect. And last few words, I would say to just take some moments to sit with self, take some moments to reconnect to that child self. Follow the excitement. That's been something that's been on my mind lately, something that I personally have been working on lately. What are the things that bring you joy? What are the things that take you away from those negative thoughts, from the stress, the anxiety that you may be feeling? Allow yourself to play. It could be 5-10 minutes, right? And a lot of the times we find that it takes longer to get yourself or to give yourself permission to play. But once you get there, You don't want to stop coloring.
Yeah, I know that's right. So as you begin to color a great episode right now, we thank you, Coach Cat, for being on the show. Is social media? Are you anywhere on social media?
Yes. So Enmi Wellness. So ENMI Wellness at Instagram.
Okay. So we'll definitely have that on the show notes as well. Coach Cat, thanks for being on the show. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
And just know, every time we have a guest on the show, we're going to always be able to promote the great work that they're doing. So continue to follow Coach Cat as we put down the information on our show notes and begin to do the breath work, the shadow work, and any work that you need to do to become your best self. Because we breathe in what we expect and we breathe out what we don't need. And we can take in a fresh breath of fresh air in our success when we do that process. So thank you, Coach Cat, for that. Thank you, Ingenious Nick, for having Coach Cat on.
Thank you.
We'll have to talk more about this collabo, this setup that y'all have going on. But listen, we about to wrap up for the show. Any sign-off words, Nick, before we let the...
And the sign-off words, yeah, go color something. Pick up a coloring book. You know, don't be embarrassed, don't be shy.
So there you go. That's Community Voice PHL. So remember, if it's happy in community, we need to hear your voice. Peace, and we are out.
Peace.